everyone, my name is Rachel Pilipon, and today we're going to have another subtopic discussion about our chapter 10, Water Management, and this is 10.6 Kinds of Sources of Water Pollution. And before we delve into that, before we discover what are the sources of water pollution, first, let us understand unsa din ni ang water pollution. So, water pollution is the contamination of water bodies such as lakes, rivers, oceans, aquifers, and groundwater, very often by human activities. It occurs when pollutants such as particles, chemicals, or substances that make water contaminated are discharged directly or indirectly into water bodies without enough treatment to get rid of harmful compounds. So now we know unsa na ang water pollution. So water pollution is when the bodies of water are contaminated with pollutants. It can be gimension ganyan, diba? Particles, chemicals, or other substances that makes water contaminated and is very dangerous sa ato ang ecosystem. So mo na siya. Now, let us now delve into what are the sources of water pollution. So there are actually various classifications of water pollution, and the two chief sources of water pollution can be seen as point and non-point. So unsa din ang point o ang non-point? So when we talk about point sources, so a point source is a single definable source of the pollution such as a factory, a sewage plant, etc. Point source pollution is usually monitored and regulated. So kaning point source of water pollution is when you say definable source is kay bawd ka nga okay. So kana siya nga source is it actually produces water pollution, but then at the good side pod is this is usually monitored or regulated. Pero compare na to sa non-point source, which is no one single source but a wide range of sources such as runoff sources and sources from urban areas or farmland. Non-profit sources are much more difficult to monitor and control. So muna ang difference sa point source o non-point source. Ang point source manggod is kahibaw ka mapinpoint nimo kung asa gyud naggikan ang kani nga water pollution. Pero ang non-point, it has a wide range of sources. Dili ka kaingon nga, okay, this kind of water pollution is from this or from that. So dili. And also, mas usually monitored ang point source pollution or point source water pollution. Different siya sa non-point nga usually jud lisod siya i-monitor o lisod po siya i-control. So mo siya. And now, let's delve into the different types of water pollution nga kaning duha ka sources of water pollution magikan sila. So there are actually many types of water pollution because water comes from many sources, no? So here are a few types of water pollution. So let's start with nutrients pollution. So some wastewater, fertilizers, and sewage contain high levels of nutrients, and if they end up in water bodies, they encourage algae and weed growth in the water. This will make the water undrinkable and even clog filters. Too much algae will also use up all the oxygen in the water, and other water organisms in the water will die out of oxygen starvation. So nutrients pollution, in short, is there are just too much nutrients nga nagikan sa mga waterways, wastewater rather, fertilizers and sewage nga mo diretso mo end up sa ato ang bodies of water that will actually promote a really big growth of algae and other kwanpod nga is it even clogged filters, and which results to it will use up all the oxygen sa kana nga body of water, which results to other water organism to eventually die out of oxygen starvation. Kay nga naman, there is just too much nutrients sa kana nga body of water nga katong mga algae is grabe kay ilang growth nga katong mga originally na ato daan nga bodies of water is nakig-compete na sila atong mga algae, atong mga excessive growth of algae, and then eventually, of course, since there kanang paspas gani ang growth sa katong mga algae is eventually katong mga fish or other organisms nga naa dito is mamatay sila because there is just not enough oxygen to sustain all the organisms that are in there. So mo na siya ang nutrients pollution. So doesn't makita na hala tino jud too much of everything is not good. No, so mo na siya. Now, surface water pollution. Ano sa dining surface water pollution? So, surface water includes natural water found on the Earth's surface like rivers, lakes, lagoons, and oceans. Hazardous substances coming into contact with this surface water, dissolving or mixing physically with the water, can be called surface water pollution. So, kaning surface water is, I-mention na this includes natural waters, no? But, by the time this came contact into hazardous substances such as mga trashes, chemicals, the moment it mixes within that surface water, then it became polluted. That's why it's called surface water pollution. So, mo na siya. So, I think we've seen a lot of this mano sa atong lugar. So, mo na siya if as you can see here in the picture, if you've seen places like that, then especially these are usually found in rivers, lakes, lagoons, and even sa atong ocean, no, makita nato. So, there, makaingon mo nga, ay, that's surface water pollution, di ay. And, also, ato ni siyang makuan po, kung atong basi, asa di siya nga source? Like, asa siya? Point source or non-point source? We can actually, consider that as non-point source. Kaya nga naman, there is just a wide range of sources nga pwedeng nagikana nga mga hazardous substances. So, muna siya ang sa surface water pollution. Now, let's have oxygen depleting. So, what is this? So, water bodies have microorganisms. So, these includes aerobic and anaerobic organisms. And ato siyang i-difference, ato siyang i-differentiate rather, unsa dining aerobic o anaerobic organisms. So, kani aerobic organisms magod, they live off of oxygen. They need oxygen to survive. However, kaning anaerobic organisms is they don't need oxygen to survive. Mura dyan na ang main characteristic anang duha para dali nato sila matimanan. So, when too much biodegradable things or biodegradable matters, things that easily decay, end up in the water, it encourages more microorganism growth and they use up more oxygen in the water. And if oxygen is depleted, aerobic organisms die and anaerobic organisms grow more to produce harmful toxins such as ammonia and sulfide. So, dyan na ito makita na, again, if there is just too much nutrients sa kana nga body of water, then kaya akong mention ganyan, diba, na ang aerobic organisms manggod, they live off of oxygen. They need oxygen to survive. Now, if these organisms, mga microorganisms nga nabuhi because of these biodegradable matters, then makikompete na po na sila. And these microorganism growth actually use up more oxygen sa kana water. So, there is no balance na sa usage of oxygen sa kana nga body of water. That is why na mga anaerobic organisms nga mamatay, and ang makasurvive na is ang mga anaerobic organisms which actually produces harmful toxins nga, again, makaingon sa ka ba nga wala lagi oxygen, pagkauman na pa yung mga toxins. So, diba? So, dako dyan siya impact. So, muna dahil sa picture, makita ninyo nga, tahan dyan mga isda or other organisms ka mga matay. Kaya there's just not enough to sustain that ecosystem. And there's just harmful toxins pod in addition sa kana. So, there is, ang balance, wala na yung balance sa kana nga ecosystem. So, that's what we call organism depleting. So, from the word depleting pa lang, kay baon nakangani, ubos siya ni decrease good ang oxygen because there's just a big growth of microorganisms that use up that oxygen nga unta para na sa mga organisms nga naaato. It disrupts the balance of that ecosystem. So, mao na siya. Next is groundwater pollution. So, I believe no sa 10.4, we've already mentioned this groundwater. Now, let's also understand groundwater pollution, adi ay. So, what's in groundwater pollution? So, groundwater pollution actually is when humans apply pesticides and chemicals to soils. They are washed deep into the ground by rainwater. This gets to underground water, causing pollution underground, which means when we dig wells and bore holes to get water from underground, it needs to be checked for groundwater pollution. So, Then ito makita nyo na humans actually using pesticides and chemicals sa ilahang agriculture, sa ilahang pagtanom is actually not good in every way, because ang katumanggod nga mga chemicals is it will be washed deep into the ground. And of course, kung magkuan na ang mga tao or ang government man or kung kinsa man magkuan sila, maghimo sila mga well or sa Bisaya tabay, is kailangan jud na nga i-check ang quality sa water, because again, as I think I mentioned this siya sa 10.4 nga groundwater are actually used by plants and also humans to drink. Drinkable water na siya. So kung himon siya kanang himon siya water nga pwedeng mainom sa tao, then it has to be checked it has to be checked for groundwater pollution. Kay dili man na siya healthy. It is a risk sa mga tao. So muna siya another type of water pollution, which is groundwater pollution. Then as you can see there in the picture, so diyan to makita no sa desa na to ma-differentiate. So, muna siya. So, muna ang groundwater pollution. Now, let's talk about microbiological pollution. So, in many communities in the world, people drink untreated water straight from the river or stream. Sometimes, there is natural pollution caused by microorganisms like virus, bacteria, and protozoa. Those natural pollution can cause fishes and other water life to die. They can also cause serious illness to humans who drinks from such waters. So, kaning microbiological manggod is these are naman even I before years back is pwede jud makainom directly sa gripo, di ba? Pero nanay na ko'y I thought panggod nga almost all people do the same thing sa amua. Bisan hantod karon pwede man sa amua. Pero na-discover na ko lang actually years back is di mga lugar nga dili sila pwede mo inom og tubig directly sa faucet, because di siya healthy or consumable sa mga tao. So muli siya ang usapod na to nga example pod sa kaning microbiological, kay nga naman these bodies of water can actually sometimes are actually polluted na. So there are viruses, bacteria, and protozoa. I will correct myself kanina ko ganiya protozoa daw. So protozoa nga dili siya healthy sa tao, ug labi na jud sa lain pa jud nga mga living organisms sa kana nga body of water. So mo na siya ang microbiological. So nanay katong body of water is unfortunately na siya mga viruses and bacteria nga dili na siya safe for humans and even other living organisms to consume. So mo na siya. So, these are pictures. Kung makita ninyo, no? So, talawon pa lang ninyo kay bawnan mo nga, di man siya pwede imnon because it's hugaw na siya. So, di na siya pwede i-consume. So, inya makita gyapon nimo nga naagya po yung mga tao nga mo consume mo inom ana. Mo nang natay makuan nga nadyo magsakit ang tiyan or other illness pod caused by these bacteria or viruses. Unfortunately, sometimes there are viruses, no. So, next is we have suspended matter. So, what do we mean by suspended matter? So, these are some pollutants, substances, particles, and chemicals do not easily dissolve in water. These kind of materials is called particulate matter. Some suspended pollutants later settle under the water body. This can harm and even kill aquatic life that live in the floor of water bodies. So, kaya ba man dyan tanong nga, naadyo yung mga matters nga dili jud siya dali or namang times nga dili jud siya ma-decompose. So, as you can see there in the picture na atay mga ligid diha, natay mga kanang mga debris gani nga dili siya wala siya na dissolve gani, so nagstay na siya diha sa kanang sa floor sa atong water bodies. And unfortunately, sometimes the living organisms, the fishes and many other living organisms diha is ilhan nang makonsume, or sometimes they get stuck na mga mga documentaries nga naanay ka ng mga isda nga na stuck sa kanang botilya, di na sila kagawas, or na mga isda or mga kanang dagko nga mga living organisms like whales nga na mga higot sa ilahang tail. So murag trap gani. So mo na siya ang suspended matter, wala siya na dissolve, nag-urong na siya ngadto sa floor sa ato ang water bodies, which actually pollutes the water So mao na siya ang suspended matter. So next is we have chemical water pollution. So I think wala the idea no when we say chemical water pollution, no, but still let's discuss it. Many industries and farmers work with chemicals that end up in water. This is common with point source pollution. These include chemicals that are used to control weeds and insects and pests. Metals and solvents from industries can pollute water bodies. These are poisonous to many forms of aquatic life and may slow down their development, make them infertile, and unfortunately sometimes kills them. So no, chemical water pollution. Kapila na jud ko ni gi-mention no, these are chemicals nga eventually ma-end up sila sa any parts or any types of bodies of water. That will greatly slows down the development, the progress, the recovery of aquatic life because these are poisonous. This disrupts the balance of the ecosystem. And though humans natay good good intention kay when we use manggod these types of chemicals is actually para pod maka kanang gining nindot ang growth sa mga farms or na good intention. However manggod is nasa jud siya mga kuan ba na siya pros and cons ba, which unfortunately these are the cons, and sometimes ang disadvantage jud is mas mulabaw jud siya sa advantage, unfortunately. So muna siya diri sa chemical water pollution. So the water is filled with chemicals na unfortunately dako sa jud kay impact sa mga living organisms nato nga naa sa kanang oceans or aquatic life. So mo na siya. Next is oil spillage. I think familiar na ta ani dahil kay mga gipang reports about ani. Actually before may bongay ko nga gano'n din kanang big deal kay ba nga kanang kuan naman na pero naka-learn sa ko nga mo ay it's really not good. So no mga moments ato pagkabata ba mahibong ta nga murag maratol na gyud mga tao nga uy naday kuan na. So mo so discuss ta, let's go back. Sorry sa kanang kuan. So oil spills usually have only a localized effect on wildlife but can spread for miles. The oil can cause death to many fish and get stuck to the feathers of seabirds, causing them to lose their ability to fly. It disrupts the kanang balance sa atong ecosystem. Mao jud siya oil spill, no? So of course, dili man na siya healthy, di man na siya kanang kuan ay kanang safe sa mga organisms, no. So unfortunately na times nga kanang mga matay kay ilabi nang makonsume, and that's really not good for them, and most especially pod sa mga seabirds pod, no, kay labi kanang napoy mga birds pod nga ilahang main food jud nga makita is na jud sa dagat, and sometimes when they encounter mga oil spills is unfortunately ma-stuck jud sila sa dagat kay nakuha naman ilahang pako, ma-stuck at ang oil sa ilang pako ba, so that also harms them. So mo na siya sa oil spill. So these are other industrial causes of water pollution. So dili na ta sa industrial. So industries cause huge water pollution with their activities. These come mainly from sulfur. This is a non-metallic substance that is harmful for marine life. So kaning industrial waste, so kanang gabi jud ako jud kay siya impact, especially now that we're living in a world nga gabi na kay advancement, no. So diyan to makita nga dako sa jud kay siya impact sa ato ang water cycle, labi na jud sa atong mga aquatic life. Grabe jud kay siya og impact. So oil pollution by oil industries, so routine shipping, runoffs, and dumping of oils on the ocean surfaces happen every day. Imagine that happens every day. So imagine the number of aquatic life that actually suffer. So oil spills cause major problems and can be extremely harmful to extremely harmful to local marine wildlife such as fish, birds, and sea otters, and other aquatic life. Because oil does not dissolve, it stays on the water's surface and suffocates fish. Oil also gets caught in the feathers of seabirds, making it difficult for them to fly. Some animals die as a result. So, dito to makita nga, imagine this happens every day. So, imagine nimo pila na kabuok ang number sa mga aquatic life nga greatly affected by this. Kaya nga naman, oil, as mentioned, dili siya mo dissolve. It stays on the surface. And unfortunately, of course, no, dahan jud biyag ka ng klase-klase nga mga organisms ang nasa atong ocean. So daggan jud kay og affected. Unfortunately, sometimes mga matay og to makita ba nga grabe jud kaayo ang epekto sa ato ang mga binuhatan sa atong bisag ka ng even though like kita mga tao we are advancing, pero unfortunately na siya mga advantages, which is muna siya usa sa advantages nga atong ocean pod is suffering from our kay again imagine it happens every day. Every day, imagine that. So, grabe jud kaayo yung impact. And so, as you can see there in the picture, so diha no, so makita mo dira ka ng mga metals, mga oils, and those metals, they don't dissolve. They stays on the ocean floor. So, kanang usa may buhaton sa mga isda, di ba? They will try to eat it, given nga namjay possibilities nga ma-pollute ng ocean. So there are only a few organisms that were able to survive. So mo na siyang ihang kuan. So another picture, as you can see, I never really, like what I mentioned ganihan nung nga kanang I never understood nga no dahan jud kay maratol, especially when there is an oil spill. Pero the more I understood this kanang kuan pod, this lesson pod, as I was studying it, nakaingon sa ko nga grabe sa jud kaayo, because again oil doesn't spill, oil doesn't dissolve man god. I think kanang knowledgeable naman tayo, di ba, every time nga magbutan tag oil sa tubig, di ba, it stays on the surface man god. And grabe sa jud kaayo ihang kuan. So there are other sources of water pollution aside from the oil spill from industrial and oil industry. So napod sewage and wastewater. These are actually called point source water pollution. So if you can still remember, no. So sewage is a term used for wastewater that often contains feces, urine, and laundry waste. The sewage and wastewater that is produced by each household is chemically treated and released into sea with fresh water. The sewage water carries harmful bacteria and chemicals that can cause serious health problems. Pathogens are known as a common water pollutants. So, diyan to makita nga kaning sewage man gyud kay kaya kana galing sa kanang mo si feces man god is ato ang discharge number 2 nato as humans, no. So kani siya is para we mention ganyan nga point source man good, it is usually regulated and controlled, but that doesn't mean na wala siya harmful effect or harmful impact sa ato ang ocean. So naagyapon siya impact, though controlled lang siya. So mo na siya ang sa sewage o wastewater. So di na to makita pud nga kay baka ko ka ba asam nila padung di ay ato ang kanang kon nato sa CR asam na siya padung asa di na siya nagflow. So kan kay bawo na ta na it flows sa atong water. So this na siya sa atong water, and na to makita nga dako sa education impact sa atong water. So as you can see there sa atong picture, so na siya. And so another human activities or another kuan pa jud is the mining activities. So these are other sources pod of water pollution. So mining is the process of crushing the rock and extracting coal and other minerals from underground. These elements, when extracted in the raw form, contains harmful chemicals and can increase the amount of toxic elements when mixed with water, which may result in health problems. So mao na siya. So they can also be cause sa kanang kuan pod. So kaning sa mining pod kanang ma-extract nila nga mga elements in raw form, kung ma-mix na siya water, it is not good for the health, no. So dira sa nato makita nga grabe jud kayo ang risk, no. As you can see there sa picture, no. So ocean and marine dumping kanyo very relevant. So again, think of the rubbish we all make each day, no. Paper waste, food waste, plastic, rubber, metallic, and aluminum waste. In some countries, they are deposited into the sea. All these waste types takes time to decompose. So no, mainta lang nga katong mga waste nato is within a day ma-decompose sila ug mawala jud sila. But unfortunately, some of those waste takes time to decompose. It takes years, sometimes decades, no. So nato makuan ba nga, imagine these types of water pollution this cause a water pollution because imagine pila ka imong hagbot every day, ikaw pa lang na niya combine all the people in the world, daghan kaayo. And unfortunately not po yung mga times nga ipanglaway po ni sa dagat, and then makayon sa kamba nga water cycle man good is just a recycling of water man good. And kung ang water nimo is polluted, malamang ang mubalik pod polluted pod, di ba? Kay maglisod naman sa ang atong ecosystem, ug actually kanang try to filter those. Okay, there's just too much. Dili na to makita sa next picture. Look at that picture. Mura na siya kanang dagat, mura siya sagbot nga nay gamay nga dagat. So dili na to makita nung nga grabe jud kaayo atong impact sa ato ang ocean. Grabe kaayo atong contribution sa atong water cycle nga sometimes we might think na gamay ra man unta, pero nganong inani man ang iyang impact. So dili na to makuan. So the last one is underground storage and tube leakages. So many liquid products, petroleum products, are stored in metal and steel tubes underground. Other sewage systems run in underground tubes. Over time, they rust and begin to leak. If that happens, they contaminate the soils, and the liquids in them end up in many nearby water bodies. So I think you're also familiar with groundwater naman, no? Higip kapila na dyan nagibalik-balik nga katong do kaning mga kanang kuan manggod, kaning nga mga tube is metal, but and then over time of course mutaya man na sila, and that actually results to leakages. And those liquids, unfortunately, though they are underground, still over time maabot na pud sila sa atong mga water bodies. So dahil to makita no nga grabe jud daghan jud types di ay sa ato ang water pollution. There are a lot of sources, no? And whether point or non-point, the point here is that it's not good sa ato ang water cycle. It disrupts the balance and it greatly affects us too. And knowing that our actions have greatly contributed to those water pollutions, then I guess it's time also that we humans will realize na we have to change it. We have to actually control ato ang mga kanang binuhatan, no, that will greatly affect sa ato ang water cycle. So yes, that is all with our 10.6, so kinds of sources of water pollution. So I hope you guys learned a lot today, and I hope you enjoy our discussion. And that will be all. Thank you and goodbye.